You are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
¿Cómo están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. That is Evo. It is Sunday, July 14th, and the world has gone fucking crazy. But the world of the sports world continues to roll on. Obviously, I think everybody at this point should be aware. Facebook got the news probably 2 hours ago that President Trump was shot yesterday. But yeah, the world's a crazy place, man. There's a lot of dissent everywhere that we look in the world. And today we hope that we can create a show that will not necessarily sow dissent, that people can watch, enjoy, have fun with, and we won't have to have this pointing finger game. And hopefully nobody will take any more shots at anybody else. So with that, my man, Evo, let me bring you in. How's it going, brother? How was the weekend? How are the boys? I know first week that they've been there, right?
Yeah, first full week is kind of wrapped up here in Arizona. It's been great. I am pushed, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Part of it is because my schedule just keeps kind of flipping.
Welcome to the life, brother.
Well,
you'll never fucking feel rested again.
Yeah, 3 a.m. work shows and then get off of work and immediately go and start doing stuff with the boys for the rest of the day. So it's long days, early mornings, but it's all great, all worth it. I love hanging out with them and doing stuff. And they probably are going to be watching this as it's going on from another room. Don't be surprised if they bust in here to try to get on the YouTubes. But yeah, it's been a great weekend. I got to go to Tucson to Funtastics, which I had not heard of. Play around there yesterday. Yeah. But yeah, been great. Tired, and I'm glad that we get to talk some sports here today. Though, obviously, as you alluded to, we have a whole bunch of stuff happening in the real world, and politics and stuff like that. And this show is underneath the umbrella of the No Sleeves Network, and we are trying to put together an episode of The Talk for all of you, where we can actually get into more serious topics on that subject, hopefully sometime, possibly today, very soon at least, though, because we think that it's very relevant to discuss that. And like Mike said, we're not going to try to be taking too many shots or be too divisive on that topic today, but we do just want to make sure that it is clear the shooter was not Bronny James. We know that he went 1 for 8 and missed left and everything, but it wasn't Bronny James. Though congrats to him for putting up his 3rd straight triple single.
Yeah, Bronny James is having a rough go in NBA Summer League, not the shooter. And guys, listen, I'm all good with jokes. We are dark humor infested, especially if you ever go check out our other show, The Talk. That's what veterans are all about. So there's probably going to be some jokes. We mean them in jest. I do think Republicans and Democrats are both equally idiotic. However, we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about, let's go to youth sports and kind of start with baseball as a theme. Youth sports still going on all across the country, but also for us in our household. Our youngest, Elizabeth, just finished up her T-ball season. She was selected to the All-Star team. I'm not sure how selections work in the T-ball process, but she able to go out there, earn that All-Star spot. So congrats to Elizabeth. Our middle child, Aubrey, did not make the All-Star team this year. Moved up the level. Competition got a little bit harder. Our season still going. We won our first game of the playoffs. Semifinals of the playoffs are tomorrow night. Graydon was also selected to the All-Star team by his teammates, which is something that I kind of wanted to talk about as it relates to youth sports. I do something with my team, and I found out that apparently this is not the way it works now, and it's interesting to me. Evo, you ever selected any all-star teams or things where you were selected or voted to go and play in an additional game?
No, never. And it was always like kind of a disappointment, but I never considered myself, like, especially in baseball, as being one of the better baseball players on the team. I felt like solid contributor at times, and other times I felt terrible on the team. Like baseball was a lot of fun to me, but I never, until I was older, did I actually feel like I was a solid contributor. With football, obviously, I felt pretty good. But you're talking about a lot more players on a team, a lot more contributors, things like that. You know, I never expected to make like an all-star team or anything like that, or all Metro team or anything for football. But yeah, never made any of those teams. Congratulations to Lizzie and Graydon for getting those votes.
Oh, thank you. So typically the way I've always understood these processes to go, and the way I've always done it, is the players on the team pick the all-stars, where everybody votes and says, hey, this is who I think should be all-star. You can vote for yourself if you so choose. But there's 3 kids on the team that get this honor. And rather than just me picking 3 kids, I want my athletes to pick the guys that are going to go and represent their team at the All-Star game. I found out apparently that not only am I the only one to kind of do that, I'm the only one that announces to the entire team who the All-Stars are. It does not happen at the other levels. Apparently there's some people get upset. I don't understand why. But we don't do that on my team. My players know that there's all-stars. They know that they are going to vote for all-stars, and they all know who was selected to all-stars. Now, one of those things is going to change. I got another athlete who is a doubleheader playing hockey on a national team that same weekend. So he's an all-star, obviously world-class athlete type kid. I'm going to have to replace him, but why? It's weird to me. And it seems like it's maybe it's a cultural thing or an age thing. We're starting to see that we don't push this stuff out.
It's got to be the participation trophy effect. Whenever I played baseball, we always had it was a team vote as well. I mean, I think maybe I guess it would be coach dependent. I feel like, and my memory is bad, maybe like 1 year the coach selected a person, but that person that was selected was the obvious person anyways. Like an obvious standout. And we only ever had, I believe, like 1 player from the team that actually went to the all-star team because it was a pretty big league. So we weren't afforded the opportunity to send multiple players. But yeah, that's got to be that participation trophy kind of PC mindset that the teams have where it's like, hey, we're going to keep this hush hush and not hurt anyone's feelings. Like this is counterintuitive to competition and sports in general, in my opinion. Like you are supposed to have like uncomfortable situations like that where like you enter into the arena of battle knowing that you can lose. That is part of competition. That is part of sports. There are wins and there are losses. Yes. And unfortunately, sometimes there's ties.
Ties shouldn't exist. Don't get me started on ties.
Yeah. But that is, as an athlete, you are accepting that contract in life, that there are wins, there are losses, and you will deal with the losses just like you'll deal with the wins. And that's how the all-star selection kind of goes as well. Like you might have 2, 3, 4, 5 standout players on your team, and not everyone is going to get selected because at the end of the day, not everyone is equal. That's kind of the beauty of things, is not everyone is equal. So yeah. For other coaches to kind of be, I don't know, hiding it or not selecting players, I feel like that is unrealistic to life and the world.
I absolutely agree. But with that, let's turn over to some things that are realistic and potentially badass for my Guardians and all baseball fans coming up here in the very near future. MLB All-Star Weekend, or All-Star Week, essentially, is getting ready to come up. The Home Run Derby participants have fully been announced. We got Pete Alonso of the New York Mets, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, Adolis Garcia from the Rangers, Jose Ramirez, my guy, the GOAT, from the Cleveland Guardians, Marcell Ozuna from the Braves, Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals, Alex Bohm of the Phillies, and Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles. Some young dudes in there, a couple guys that have been here before, past winner, and Pete Alonso, a multiple-time winner. Eva, is this an event that you like to gamble on? I know that we like to watch this, but for me, I love also betting the home run derby, just because you can get some decent odds. I got Jose Ramirez at plus 1,500 odds to win this thing. And in this kind of a tournament, I feel like you just got to get hot. I understand that, some of these guys are going to hit massive bombs and Jose might not. But if he finds his stroke, one of these guys that maybe we're not thinking can win this thing. Are you a gambler on the home run derby?
I have never gambled on the home run derby before. I have not, because I'm relatively virgin to the gambling world of sports, to be completely honest. It's only been in the past 2-3 years that I've really gambled on sports, and even then, it's been relatively limited to football because it's what I know the best. And if I'm going to put my money on something, I typically want to put it on something that I feel like I have the best odds of understanding. I have not gambled on the home run derby, but it does seem like a relatively easy barrier to entry as far as like understanding, because it's such a limited amount of players. You have a limited amount of options, which increases your odds of winning. So it makes a lot of sense for the home run derby to be a gambleable event. Is that even a word?
I'm not sure if gambleable is a word, but we should definitely start using gambleable as a word if it's not, because I agree. It sounds interesting.
Thanks for supporting me in that.
Yeah, 100%. I got you, dude. So if you are not aware of the format, I can give you that as well. So what's going to happen is the pitchers are going, whoever the batter selects to throw them BP is going to go up there. They get 40 pitches or 3 minutes in the first 2 rounds. In the third and final round, you get 27 swings or 27 balls and 2 minutes. So you got to make the number of pitches count. That is something that is a little newer to the format, and a time limit, and then hit as many home runs as you absolutely can. So yeah, with only 8 entrants, you can dwindle these pretty far down. Like the Jose Ramirez plus 1,500 odds was insane to me, which is why I bet it. When you only have one of 8 people, and every single one of these guys can go yard, I mean, it's a shooter's chance, man. A terrible joke, terrible reference on today's program, but like you have a shot for sure. So I would recommend maybe doing a little bit of research on the gambling front as it relates to the home run derby.
Yeah, it's kind of like any other playoff scenario where as long as you get a chance to get into the playoffs, anything's possible as far as being able to make it. Again, it's a smaller field in general. It's guys that you can start to easily get behind and root for if you aren't a traditional fan of them or their team, because it is such a smaller field. That's why it makes so much sense for, if you want to bet, even if it's just betting between you and your family on, Skittles or something like that, not actually throwing money down on it. It's an easier thing to do.
It absolutely is. Current odds: Pete Alonso, odds-on favorite at plus 300. Marcell Ozuna, plus 380. Gunnar Henderson, plus 430. Bobby Witt Jr., plus 470. Adolis Garcia, plus 500. Teoscar Hernandez, plus 1,100. Jose Ramirez now currently sitting at plus 1,400. And Alec Boehm, plus 1,600. So you can get in that mid-tier range, and you can make some decent money if one of these guys pulls through. However, Pete Alonso has won this event a couple of times. He knows how to do it.
For sure. Yeah, but that's the thing, is any of these guys can easily hit dingers whenever they want. So
hit dingers.
I can't remember the kid's name. I just saw a video on
Big Al. Big Al and I hit dingers. Yeah, Big Al's a legend. So let's move on, but stay in baseball into somebody who I'm hoping becomes a legend, and that's whoever the fuck the Guardians take at 1-1 tonight in the MLB draft. Yes, that's right. The MLB, their draft is tonight. You never hear about it unless you're an avid baseball fan, because it's almost not worth watching. A lot of these guys will be traded, or they won't even sign that once they are drafted. There's like 35 fucking rounds of the MLB draft. After round 1, there is no point in figuring out what's going to happen, because it's a complete and utter crapshoot. However, because my Guardians are picking at 1-1, I'm a little bit more invested in what is going to happen. And I have an opinion on who I want this draft pick to be. Travis Bazzana would be fantastic because in my mind, he slides in at second. Andres Jimenez can go and slide over to shortstop where he should be fucking playing already anyways. And then that takes care of fixing our middle infield because all of our shortstop prospects that we've had have been terrible. It hasn't panned out. I know there's some guys that want Condon because they want a nice big left-handed power bat in the outfield. I'm tired of missing on shortstop prospects and guys. We haven't had a solid one since we traded Francisco Lindor away, with the exception of Andres Jimenez. Slide him over to short, put Pizzana at his natural position at second. Let's call it a fucking day. That's what I want for MLB, for my Guardians tonight in the draft.
And I look, the baseball draft is a lot like the NBA draft to me, except for the NBA draft is, 2 rounds. Yeah. But you can't keep track of where people are picking because people pick and then later the players get traded and stuff like that. Like, it is tough to keep track of until it's all said and done. MLB draft is very much like that because there's so many rounds and such a wide amount of players coming from all over the world. So it's really tough to keep track of unless you are picking in those top couple picks. It is tough. It is just a crapshoot. You kind of normally will just sit back and wait for whatever happens to happen and then assess it from beyond, if you will.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, and I know you don't have a dog in this race. You're not typically tuned into baseball at this level.
Definitely not baseball prospects.
Yeah, not prospects. One baseball prospect who is now kind of turning into an absolute fucking stud gets the nod to start the All-Star game. Paul Skeens, man. Paul Skeens is living the fucking dream. Drafted 1 overall, huge signing bonus. Fucking Dayton Livy done. I mean, he's stuck in Pittsburgh, which fucking sucks. But outside of that, that man is living the dream right now.
Great mustache,
Dude, killer.
Yeah. It seems like everything is go for Paul Skeens. He's kind of the I don't want to say the Shohei Ohtani right now, but he's a guy that everyone in baseball loves to get behind because he's a really fun pitcher to watch, just from his personality, his play, and his lifestyle outside of baseball. A lot of fun watching Paul Skeens.
Oh yeah, he is an absolute fucking treat. But he is still from Pittsburgh, so take it with a grain of salt. But there is a possibility that the Guardians do something incredibly interesting and stupid. MLB draft, there have been times the Astros were kind of known to do this. They would not necessarily take the best prospect with the first overall pick because they have a certain money amount slotted for a certain spot, so they can take a lesser talent guy, pay him a little bit less, and then use that money in the later rounds to build up a better pick from a guy who maybe goes to high school or is coming out of high school, doesn't know if he's going to college or pros. It's entirely possible that could happen. I don't think it will. This year's high school class is not great in terms of, competition versus the college guys. I think they're probably going to go Condon or Bazzana. I'm pulling for Bazzana, but yeah, we'll leave it there. Any other baseball news that you have seen that you want to talk about? How are your boys doing? I know they're middling as usual, but
I mean, middling, yes, but we are still, I guess you could say, in the hunt, so to speak. Pull up the standings here real quick. We're 4.5 games back from you guys, but still have one of the better records, if you will, in the AL. So it looks like they are well within the hunt for the playoffs. Anything can happen from there, obviously. But it still seems like kind of Cleveland's year, especially here in the AL Central. Disappointing to not see Twinkies out there in any of these all-star events.
They're not doing much at the break. That's okay. There's going to be a lot of activity between our teams in this division on who's trying to do what position. So we'll have plenty of baseball stuff to talk about here in the next couple of weeks as MLB trade deadline approaches. But I got nothing else. MLB. Let's transition. Let's talk about the Espys. Espys just happened. And by all accounts, pretty decent show. I mean, most of the winners make a lot of sense. But once again, we're talking about another sports story that doesn't necessarily revolve around sports. There was another mention of Harrison Butker during the Espys. Listen, the country is so goddamn divided. That story was dead. How many more times do we want to keep calling attention to Harrison Butker having some views that a lot of people don't disagree with? Are you trying to get him fired? If that is the goal, I guess then continue what you're doing. But if the goal is to have a great unifier, and some of the comments that Harrison said after the fact state that sports are supposed to be that, why are we still making these comments? Like, why are we still fucking talking about Harrison Butker and his beliefs? Like, I don't get it. Evo, you have the transcript of his reply. I believe the transcript of what Serena said as well. What do you got?
Yeah, like we've talked about this before. We think that his comments were grossly kind of mistaken, and kind of spun in a way that was seen as anti-women in sports, things like that, which we don't believe is what he was saying when you take it fully in his context. But that's not here nor there. Like you brought up, it's not. It was a dead story. It's something that we can kind of move on from. But all along, it seems like one of the big intents was to get him fired. And by bringing it up again, you're kind of it's counter to that. It spiked his jersey sales again to being like the top jersey sale again, which goes to show you that, people like to, put their money to their vote sort of situation. People are voting with their money in this situation by purchasing those jerseys. Harrison actually, for what it's worth, you might dislike him, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that's kind of what his comments are getting at. He said he thought that Mrs. Williams was a great host and that he applauds her for using her platform to express her beliefs on a variety of topics. Sports is supposed to be a great unifier. And then he went on to say, in an event dedicated to celebrating a diverse group of men and women who have accomplished great feats, she used it as an opportunity to to disinvite those with whom she disagrees with from supporting other fellow athletes. Like in one hand, he's saying it's good that she's able to use her platform to speak just like he did, and that he disagrees with her comments and feels like it was not taking an ability of unifying people at this point, but rather just kind of trying to create a headline, trying to be divisive, rather than unify a night in an event that is meant to celebrate all races, all genders, all people within sports.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I mean, and I don't know, unite all countries. Like when you look at some of the people who won and what they won for, best MLB player, Shohei Ohtani, not an American, right? Patrick Mahomes, Black American. Best driver, so best NFL player, Patrick Mahomes. Best driver, Max Verstappen, F1. That's your guy, right?
I'm a Verstappen fan. I mean, he's absolutely dominant on that Red Bull team.
Yeah, it's insane. Luca, okay, white dude from Europe, but like there's a lot of names in
thick boys.
Yeah, thick boy. He is a thick boy, dude. He is girthy, and I love. It doesn't look like he would be a good basketball player. He looks like a football player trying to play basketball, like the dude who just boxes you out like a motherfucker when you're playing pickup. You're like, God damn it, this fucking wrestler is pissing me off.
Yeah,
but I digress. Fucking Prince Harry, a whole different country, wins a Pat Tillman Award for the Invictus Games. This is supposed to be a great unifier, a uniter. I have said my entire life, and I will continue to say, sports is the greatest things that people have probably ever created, because it provides so much to you. It's a competition. It allows you to test your skills. It challenges you to be better than you were before. It forces you to work as a team. It teaches you discipline. Sports is the greatest thing that we have on this fucking planet.
Yeah, for all the for all the negative things surrounding the Olympics, it shows you that it is a great unifier. It is where everyone comes together and celebrates athletes and their countries and things like that, and the diversity within, and they get behind those people. Like, you set aside a lot of your, you know, your country's cultural diversity issues in order to root for your nation. It is one of those unifiers.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So it would listen, she has the right to use her platform. I wish this story would go the fuck away. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about Harrison Butker. And I don't know why anybody else does either, unless they are very purposely trying to get him fired or maligned by his job and his peers. Like, I don't know why.
And again, it's not working. He would have been fired before if the team really wanted to do that. I'll say this, and this is sports, it's competition. If you are not performing, they will find someone who will perform, and it's going to make the path to remove Harrison Butker probably easier if he doesn't perform. The problem is that he is a very good, very reliable kicker, and unless he kind of falls off that cliff, which athletes do at times, he's here to stay.
Yeah. Kickers can have a weird year and get cut and then bounce around the league for 2-3 years before they catch on somewhere. It happens all the fucking time. Adam Vinatieri did not start his NFL career playing in the goddamn NFL. He started playing in NFL Europe and then became the greatest kicker of all time. So it can easily happen. But I don't want to talk about Harrison Butker anymore. Now, some of the people that did win, I mentioned some of them. Shohei Ohtani, MLB player, best MLB player. I don't think there's any debate. That's like the MVP award. Same thing with Pat Mahomes. Like, there are some crazy people that play sports that deserve all of these awards, but then you get a couple that it's like, okay, do we agree with this one? I know a big one. Caitlin Clark, topic of conversation, wins College Basketball Player of the Year. I think it's absolutely deserved. She was the best player in college. She's not the best player in the WNBA, but that's not the award that she was winning. So, yeah, good job to Caitlin Clark for that. There's so much divisiveness. I don't like talking about it. Best play. Let's talk about that. Lamar Jackson catches his own pass. That is a great play. It was a huge, cool play. Play of the year in the entirety of sports. That is the play of the year. I mean, it's a good play, but there were JJ's fucking catch, his one-handed catch on 4th and what was it, 17?
Was it the one against the Lions, I believe?
Yes.
That was a 4th and 27.
That's a better play.
Very reminiscent to his play versus the Bills. You know, that one was the 4th and 18 from the year prior. Yeah.
So yeah, listen, you can disagree on some of these. Like the Prince Harry thing, I think it's cool. The Invictus Games, awesome. Is it the Pat Tillman Award? I don't know. I don't know who else was up for it. Because that's another topic of debate is there are other athletes who are overcoming things. And so does that really fit what the award is supposed to be? Prince Harry, by the way, Duke of Sussex, I think. Still, maybe not.
I don't follow.
Who gives a shit?
Politics. Yeah. Yeah, there's a big question, especially in the veteran community, about whether or not he should have received that sort of award or not.
He is a veteran.
Yeah. And it's just, could they have found something different? Maybe. But again, I'm not part of these voting committees and stuff like that. It's tough. No matter what, just like with your youth all-star game, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers, and we just have to deal with it on some of these things. Unless it is an extremely obvious politicized pick where there was someone that was absolutely more deserving, there will always be opinions, and those opinions aren't necessarily wrong or right. It just, those are your opinions and you're allowed to have.
Yep. Absolutely. And then
Anthony Edwards' dunk should have absolutely been best play.
Anthony Edwards' dunk, huh? We're still going Minnesota, a little bias there.
Absolutely. I mean, we're getting nothing right now, so come on.
I mean, was there a best moment or was that just presented during the show?
I'm not sure. I didn't actually sit down and watch the show. I just have the nominees of different events up here.
Well, best moment, in my opinion, would have been down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson. Because that was beautiful. That will live in my memory to this day. Jose Ramirez, you are my goat. But anything else on the Espys? Anything else you want to hit on? Winners, snubs, anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So let's dive into a little bit of football. Let's talk about receiver. You have started watching receiver. I have yet to start watching receiver. I have seen the clips. The person I am most interested to follow at this point is Davante Adams, because I have seen the memes. Jimmy G is getting fucking dragged on every social media platform. And then from the clips I've seen, you can hear Davante saying, this motherfucker better not do insert thing that Jimmy G immediately does and ends in a fucking incomplete pass. Like, he knew where Jimmy's mistakes were going to be before Jimmy even knew in the clips that I've seen. Dude, is this awesome? How badass is this better than QB? Because the last time this came out, I was sitting in a hospital. I watched QB recovering in the hospital bed. I am so excited to do this. I need to make time. It's like hour-long episodes. Is it worth the time investment? And is Jimmy G just going to get fucking destroyed by Davante Adams?
Yeah, so the show is fantastic. I mean, if you watch quarterback, it's always awesome to see, like, as a football fan, it's great to see that kind of behind the scenes thing. It is something that, again, kind of breaks down certain barriers where you have people, a lot of our wives, girlfriends, my fiance, they're not as big into football, but it actually opens up the door to a lot of things where you get to see the players' life outside of football and how football plays into their normal life and their families and things like that, which is really cool to see. You get to see some of the things that they do outside of football. It opens the door for a lot more fans, which is absolutely what quarterback did. But quarterbacks are a different breed. They're the most important player on the football team, and getting to see how professional and whatnot that they are in their outside lives as well as their professional lives is pretty special. Receivers are always kind of perceived as more of divas, and you actually get that at the very first episode as they kind of break into things. Peyton Manning's the executive producer of the show, and he kind of quickly hands off the torch to Randy Moss, who starts to go through like, oh, receivers just got to go catch the ball, right? That's all that they do. They're divas. And then he goes through everything else that they do. They're taking hits all the time. They're out there blocking. They're running routes along with everybody else, and they just have to hope for the chance that they get a ball thrown to them. Things like that. And so it goes into that aspect of, you get to see George Kittle as a tight end who is a receiver who, I love George Kittle. I love him even more after this show. Like, it makes me be like, damn, I wish
feel
I
like
had George Kittle on my team.
He's got to be a dude. He's a bro, right?
George
Kittle's a bro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Throwing beers down on the party bus that he has with himself for Chubbies, where he's laying on the side.
Is that tight end university? Is that what they just do? The tight end U is all about just fucking being a big dumb animal, partying your ass off, catching fucking tuds. I think feels like those are the dudes that you want to hang out with the most.
Well, because you get the flashiness of receiving the ball and making big plays, but there are also kind of more the blue collar guys that are like hanging up with the linemen and stuff like that. Yeah. They definitely kind of break down all those barriers, and the tight ends always seem to be the guys that are having the most fun out there. But then on the same team, you get Debo, and you get to see that dynamic as well between the two of them. They seem thick as thieves. You get Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of those crazy ascending players. You get to see kind of, his past of where he came from, with having his mother be from Germany, his dad being Mr. Olympia, bodybuilder, and how his whole family was kind of trained by his father to be elite, and how he's overcome so much adversity as far as like not being selected high in the draft and having, those chips on his shoulder. You get to see my guy, JJ, who unfortunately, obviously had injuries this last season. And then the team ends up having Kirk Cousins go down with that Achilles and that sort of a dynamic. And then, of course, you get Devontae Adams, who, if anyone didn't pay attention, they had not necessarily quarterback controversies there in Vegas, but quarterback issues. They go through Garoppolo and Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell. Their head coach gets fired, and you kind of get to see the dynamic of Devontae and how he deals with all that. Now, I'll say this: I've obviously have disdain towards the Packers, and Devontae was a Packer, and I got to see Devontae year in and year out for a long time with the Packers, and I hated it because he is a fucking really good wide receiver, and I respected that out of him. Whereas I don't respect certain other players that come from that team. I absolutely respected Devontae because I just hated having to go against him because he was so dang good. I'll say this in this receiver show, I still respect him as a player, but you do get to see a little bit more of, I don't want to call it the diva side, but the quiet parts he says a little bit more out loud that you kind of don't want to see if you are a fan of that player, that team. And some of that comes from the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, the situation with McDaniels as their coach, things like that. He gets upset because he's not getting targets. He talks about, I got paid a lot of money to be here, to be the guy, and I am the best guy on this team, and they aren't getting me the ball. There's times when they win, and then they show his press conferences, and he's like, I'm not happy. This isn't about the wins and the losses. This is about my legacy. And those are things that, while true, you would hope that he would be a little bit more humble, but he's allowing his personality and his true feelings to come out, which is something that we always beg for from these athletes, is just to say what you're thinking, which, it's tough for me to completely slander him or throw him under the bus that way. I'll say this, like, Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't look great in the show, but he's not absolutely getting thrown under the bus. Like, when they're directly talking to Devontae about things with Jimmy, he's not throwing him under the bus. He's actually towing the correct, like, PR line of being like, I love Jimmy. We got to get some things fixed and things like that, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll hear him on the sideline and whatnot. And there'll be
sucks.
Yeah. He'll come to the sideline and be like, God damn it, fuck, and stuff like that, and like throwing his helmet and stuff like that, getting upset. But he's not directly throwing him under the bus, but you can tell where his heart is and what his thoughts are on these situations, whether it is Jimmy Garoppolo or Josh McDaniels, any of those. You can see that kind of come out, and you see that transition and how things kind of change when Pierce ends up coming in and whatnot. But I'll say this, my favorite part so far of the show, and I'm maybe 6 episodes in, does have to do obviously with my team, because I am hyper focused on the Vikings and Justin Jefferson.
Right.
Jefferson has that same sort of cockiness, but he let me close the door here real quick. We're getting loud out here.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Oh, man, I know it's like when that sound connects. Fuck, I got Bert's dumbass over here every once in a while. Got the kids running around upstairs.
Well, they've been in here and under the table and around trying to watch and stuff like that. And just forgot to let the door open.
They want to see what's all about.
Absolutely. But so for Justin Jefferson, he has that same sort of like cockiness as Devontae Adams, where he thinks like he knows I am one of, if not the best wide receivers in football, and that I'm continuing to do that. But he puts so much of the onus on himself when things don't go right. He's never pointing fingers. It's always me. I fucked up. I need to do better. Things like that, which I really like to see. But beyond that, and something that I've actually heard kind of parroted by other Vikings beat writers, columnists, things like that, is one of the coolest things for us to see is the other side of our head coach, Kevin O'Connell. There's a lot of positivity around Kevin O'Connell as the head coach and stuff like that. And all that we ever really get to see of him is the positivity, the motivator, a relatively placid guy when he talks in press conferences and whatnot. He never throws anyone under the bus either. He's very good about protecting his players and whatnot, because he, was a player. But they have the mics on now in the locker room and things like that. And so you get to hear when the Vikings have bad games, stuff like that, him kind of tear into them, him be direct with those guys. You don't hear Kevin O'Connell curse very much, and now you do. You're actually getting to hear that other side of him where he has that fire and that passion, and it's that good motivating passion. Like, I put myself in the shoes of being a player, and if my coach was talking to me like that, like, I want to run through a brick wall for this guy. He's absolutely right. We are so much better than this, and we are being lazy right now. We are not caring enough about this. And he knows because he was a player not that long ago. And you can actually see where he was a quarterback. That's the type of motivator that a quarterback would be to the rest of his team if he was starting and in the huddle and stuff like that. That's exactly who Kevin O'Connell is. So that's one of the big things for me, is getting to see that. Like, I love getting to see that part of Kevin O'Connell. But again, Receiver, fantastic show. I absolutely would recommend you going and watching it. Even if one of your favorite players isn't on the show, like, you're going to come out of the show loving a lot of these players, other guys on the team, coaches, things like that. And it's well worth watching.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's a guy on Receiver that I don't already have like massive respect for. Devontae is one of the best in the world. I've always enjoyed Devontae, and I mean, like, I was not a huge Packer hater. I even was a supporter of Aaron Rodgers until it just became too fucking much. Like, if you go back, like we talked about it before, but if you go back to the beginning of these shows, I used to kind of goad you a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, and because he was playing lights out, but he's grown tiresome to me, and I can't do it. So I've a massive respect. Yeah,
I've infected you with the hatred.
Yeah, I have a massive respect for Devontae, though. I love Kittle. Jettas is one of the best in the world, and I'm very interested to see that hopefully he's not the diva guy. At least he doesn't show it. Obviously, you don't know what they're going to capture. But there's been a lot of conversations like, oh no, like, we might see that Justin Jefferson is this massive diva because he wants all this money. I think from the sounds of it, it's Justin Jefferson knows his value and is constantly willing to work. So that's why he is so demanding of things from the organization, because he's putting in that level of work.
It's interesting because he had the injury. So he started off the year early on getting a hamstring injury, which I know hamstrings will keep you down and out for a while.
Weeks.
And they went through the whole situation of the reporters and things like going like, well, if the year doesn't start going good for the Vikings, maybe he just decides to sit for the rest of the year because he's in a contract year coming up.
Right.
And he doesn't want to get re-injured, hurt that value, anything like that. And he goes on to talk about it. He goes, I understand what they're saying. I get where they're coming from, why I should possibly consider sitting out. And he's like, you will never see that from me. I don't give a damn about it. I am playing football for my guys because we got a shot. And he's like, that's what I'm about. He's like, I know that I'm very good. I know I'm going to get paid, but I need to go out there and prove it day in and day out and be there for my teammates. Otherwise, I'm not worth those dollars. I'm not worth it if I'm sitting on the sidelines. And you see his first game back from the hamstring injury, he goes and gets a pulmonary contusion from getting hit in the back, and he's coughing up blood, which I didn't know. In the Raiders game, he gets smacked in the back, and goes to the sideline. They think that he gets the wind knocked out of him. He's sitting there coughing up blood, and he doesn't want to go to the blue tent. The trainer's like, no, you got to go back because this could get very severe very quick. And he's just getting super pissed, being like, fuck, I just came back. I was just gone for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? And they end up having to take him to the hospital to monitor him. But you see the passion out of him where he's getting upset that, like, I can't be on the field. And right now we're playing with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins as a quarterback.
Right, yeah.
Like that, and he wants to be out there because he knows that he makes a big difference. And you get to see the other side of him where I've kind of felt this way is JJ is kind of a shy guy. Like, but he talks about how he's got two personas. He's got Justin and he's got Jets.
And he's got JJ.
When he throws on the chains, when he throws on the grills, when he throws on those Oakleys, Jets is there. And that's the showman. That's the athlete. Otherwise, he's like, I just want to stay home. I want to watch TV, play some Madden, video games and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm a shy guy. Everyone knows that I'm a shy guy, but I get to don this cape when I go out there on the football field. And I want to make sure to put on the show that everyone deserves when they come out to see me play. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is dope. I'm very excited to watch.
He also lives in a tiny townhouse. Probably not anymore, but
Oh no, yeah, he probably got a nice crib now.
like nice
Uh,
car, nice little
yeah,
townhouse, personal chef in there cooking for him and stuff like
of
that.
course.
Um, uh, and all the bling that you want. And he goes into his spending habits. He's like, I don't like to buy crazy things. It's like something I'm really passionate about. And then he just whips out that jewelry case and starts putting on all the chains. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Episode 2 is where you first get to see JJ in there.
Okay, episode 2. You said?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I got our boys texting me, blowing up about episode for tonight. So let's make that transition, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. We're gonna do a podcast tonight called The Talk. All of this is underneath the No Sleeves Network. I'm talking about creating content and some of that stuff. We actually have another addition to the No Sleeves Network. In a full-time capacity, we will have a food review coming from Vanilla Gorilla Eats, our boy. There's potential that there's going to be a gaming channel he's also bringing over, but the No Sleeves Network continues to grow. The Vanilla Gorilla is hilarious. I love his food reviews. I give him 5 out of 5 bananas because he rates everything with his bananas, but he's done some pretty cool food reviews challenges. We need to get him bounce around different places in the country, come visit people. I'm gonna make him come out here to Cleveland. There's some fucking places he needs to try out here. I know the Vanilla Gorilla likes himself some pastrami and some corned beef. You can't get any place better than here. So, but the Vanilla Gorilla is now part of the No Sleeves Network. So, welcome, brother. We'll see him tonight for the talk.
Super stoked for that.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm very excited. We're going to continue to grow. We'll put out some more information on Vanilla Gorilla, where you can find him, all of the affiliation stuff with the No Sleeves Network. Brother, you got anything else? I mean, we're coming up on about 50 minutes. It's dead time. I mean, even MLB's going into break. So I don't know if we got much else to talk about.
There's only 2 things I did want to mention. Unfortunate deaths that happened here in the NFL.
Yes.
We had Monty Kiffin, former NFL defensive coordinator, who passed away. I mean, he was getting up there in age. His son Lane Kiffin's still a coach, obviously. But he was an architect of some insane defenses back in the day in the NFL. So rest in peace to Monty Kiffin. And then also this morning we found out that we lost Jacoby Jones, wide receiver and returner, part of that Ravens Super Bowl team. He dies at age 40 at his home.
Yeah.
I'm unsure as to the situation regarding that, but Jacoby Jones, never a star wide receiver, but always a piece on those teams that you would, a name that's easy to recognize, Jacoby Jones, and a really good returner. And
one of the most wild plays in the Super Bowl, but not Super Bowl, in playoff history, or to get into the playoffs, somehow gets behind that Broncos defense, and Joe Flacco drops an absolute fucking dime and scores to get them in.
Yeah, the Mile High Miracle is the play if you want to look it up. 70-yard touchdown pass from Joe Flacco with 31 seconds left remaining in the AFC divisional playoff game 2013. Fantastic play for them to get over Denver.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of some big time plays. He will be sorely missed. 40 is so young. God, that's terrible. Guys, like, it feels like the last couple of weeks, the themes in life, in our shows, and everything that we're kind of seeing is that life is, it's fleeting. It can often be tragic, but we need to try to do what we can to help each other live that best life. That the division that is going on inside the country is outrageous at this point. The people that we are losing, it's tragic. Stop making stupid decisions. Stop hating one another. Start coming together and hopefully enjoy yourselves while you're here. We're not here for a long time. So we should be here for a good time. And if we can help other people have that good time, we should do that as well. Evo, any parting words before we get out of here?
No, man. Go ahead. Watch Receiver. Love your family. Love those around you. And have a good rest of your weekend. That's pretty much it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Guys,
watch the
I'm
talk.
Mike. Watch the talk. Yes. I'm Mike. That is Evo. If you want to interact with our show, go to any social media platform, search for the Lineman Lounge. You will find us there. If you want to listen to us, go to any podcast platform. We're posted there, as well as if you want to watch this show, you can go on to YouTube. With that, we are going to get out of here. Thank you, guys. Time is the most valuable thing that you have, and when you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. Love yourselves, love your family, but we are going to get the fuck out of here. See you.